Hello there, YouTube viewers. This is the Remnant New Testament Church doing a blog today. I would just like to get on here to talk about an issue that I find of huge importance. I heard a radio interview online today by a guy named, it was an interview with a guy named Wolfgang Halbig. This is a man he trains schools to do school security. This man said he was at Columbine. He's an ex-state trooper. He was in the military. He was a customs inspector at airports. And this man has credentials like crazy. And this man is actually doing an investigation into the Sandy Hook Newtown shooting. He has sent Freedom of Information Act requests into government officials in Connecticut, I guess the police department and etc., trying to get information on this case. He has followed Connecticut state law to do that, and they sent, apparently, because he's from Florida, I believe, they sent sheriff deputies to his house to tell him that he needed to stop his investigation, stop asking questions, or the Connecticut State Police would charge him with harassment, felony harassment. And interesting enough, in the interview, this gentleman said that when the two deputies showed up at his house, they apparently had a dossier, I guess you can call it dossier, whatever they call it, on him. I mean, they had all his background information and all that, so somebody apparently is going through a lot of trouble to get information on him for simply asking questions, and I think that's very important. And he has brought up several inconsistencies about the Sandy Hook shooting, everything like that. Like for instance, he did through investigation, he showed that there were no life medical helicopters that were called to the scene, which that's the quickest way to get somebody to a hospital with the best care is on these emergency helicopters, hospital helicopters. None of those were called. He did documentation on that. In fact, the first police unit that was there on the scene did not immediately go in. They waited a quarter of a mile away from the school, which violates the protocols that the police have been trained on, that immediately in that situation they're supposed to try to enter the facility and neutralize the threat, in this case being the shooter, and try to save as many lives as possible. That's the official protocol. There are other things, for instance, the multiple shooting suspects. I seen the footage of the little boy being interviewed on the news. I can't remember which network it was. I think they probably had it on all the networks. But the little boy was telling the reporter right on camera, "Oh yeah, they got a guy arrested. He's sitting back there in the police car." Then there's the helicopter footage where they arrested a suspect behind the school in the woods, and this person looked like they were dressed in camo, and they were pinned to the ground, getting cuffed. A lot of the weird things, like on the police radio, the tapes, that there was a suspicious van in the area with people dressed in costumes and things like that. Other kind of weird stuff. The fact that apparently 8 minutes after they secured the scene after the shooting, somebody declared all the 26 people involved in the situation dead. In the state of Connecticut, the only person who can legally declare somebody dead is a licensed medical doctor, and that's the law in Connecticut. Apparently, that protocol was not followed. So that's kind of inconsistent, right? They just barely secured the scene, and they had ambulances. They made them wait for an hour or something like that. They had the ambulances far away from the school, not let them come in. And that doesn't seem right, because in this situation, how can they possibly be sure all these people? I mean, aren't you supposed to have the EMTs and things like that go in there and try to check on all these people and see who's dead, who's alive? I mean, it's just something's not adding up there. And certainly, I have researched situation. I mean, it just seems like this event, it just something seems horribly wrong, and I salute Mr. Wolfgang Halbig for having enough guts and courage to ask these questions, because what it looks like is that our media and our government officials have been lying to us about what really happened. And I think it's very important as Christians and as people who are called to preach, and are like preachers and ministers, we need to speak out on these issues. I have a quote here by Dr. John R. Rice, and this is from a book that he wrote, and he had I guess it was answering questions about the gospel and everything like that. One of the questions is, should we mix politics and religion? Here's John R. Rice's quote. So as an honest Bible preacher, obeying the plain commands of God, I must speak out against corruption, immorality, waste, corruption, the taking of men's freedom, and the seizing of men's property. These sins every honest preacher must condemn, and every honest Christian must disavow. And so I'm going to read this quote again. Dr. John R. Rice, famous preacher. So as an honest Bible preacher, obeying the plain commands of God, I must speak out against corruption and immorality, waste, corruption, the taking away of men's freedom, and the seizing of men's property. These sins every honest preacher must condemn, and every honest Christian must disavow. So, and you'll notice in the mainstream churches these days, you don't see preachers preaching against corruption, preaching against sin, really taking a moral stand on anything anymore. I'm convinced it's because the church has been infiltrated. In fact, I've read information that suggests that even some of these big-name TV preachers, their crusades are used to launder drug money, and there's connections with the CIA using ministries as front groups. And so, and in the churches, we got these Bible colleges that are funded and operated. They're funded and by David Rockefeller, who's not a Christian by any stretch of the imagination. As we know, David Rockefeller is one of the founding people of the Council on Foreign Relations and the Bilderberg Group, both organizations, one world government. And I am convinced that David Rockefeller is Illuminati. These people do exist in this secret society here. All these secret societies working together under that umbrella, same umbrella. Different names, but the same goals and the same beliefs and the same overall direction. Leading this country into a fascist, kind of socialist, one world government system. Just like it was prophesied in the book of Revelation. And I believe one of the ways they're doing this is through attacking the Second Amendment. They're attacking the Bill of Rights and the Constitution, trying to get us to, replace that. And one of the ways, especially the Second Amendment, that's the people's way of being able to, that's your right to self-defense. And that's the most important reason why the Second Amendment is still valid, because you have the ability to defend your family and your home against criminals. But then the Founding Fathers also said, in case your government goes too corrupt, goes criminal or rogue like that, then you can defend yourself. And that's certainly something to be concerned about. But you'll notice after the Sandy Hook incident, people went into paranoia mode. There was kids who were getting busted at school. They were getting suspended from school for forming their hand into a gun, playing around. Like we used to do when we were kids in school. Pow pow. One kid bit his Pop-Tart in the lunch cafeteria to where it looked like a gun. He was suspended. I mean, just people crazy, over the top, paranoid, just nutty behavior on behalf of school officials. People being scared and panicked after this event. And I think the American people, we have a right to know the truth, and we should demand it. And I'd like to know where all these so-called pastors are at in these so-called churches, man. Why aren't they speaking out against the corruption we see going on in our local, state, and federal governments? I mean, like Obama with this Obamacare, why aren't more preachers preaching against that? It's socialism, it's communism, and it's a scam where people were lied to, told they can keep the doctor and the insurance they wanted. That was a bald-faced lie that the president gave. For the preachers in the churches, they should be condemning that. The fact that this law will require religious groups, people, companies, even companies owned by Christians, everything like that, to fund abortions and things like that, which is the murder of innocent babies before they're born. The fact that this law will kill old people, denying them medical care. The death panels are in there. That kind of immoral and evil behavior going on. Where are the preachers at when Obama? Where are the preachers at? America's preachers at when Obama signed the NDAA into law, the National Defense Authorization Act, which included a provision where Obama could use the military anytime he wants to kidnap a U.S. citizen, even on U.S. soil, without any due process or any kind of court hearing or anything like that, totally violating the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. Or in fact, I've recently found out, and this is from a guard member I know in my state, saying that they had a big meeting a couple of weekends ago when they were on duty, telling them that the federal government wants to put military on these streets, and they're going to do it on a trial basis this summer. You know, again, where's people speaking out against this? They're overthrowing our Constitution and Bill of Rights, and they're violating. Where are the preachers speaking out at with all the police brutality going on? We should condemn that kind of stuff, like the video I've heard about, which I just couldn't bear to watch it, but I read the description of it where a police officer attacked an elderly man in a wheelchair, ripped him out the chair, slammed him against walls, and the guy couldn't even, you know, clearly the officer was in the wrong, but then he gets away with it, you know. Gets taken to trial for felony assault charges, and that he gets away with it. He's set free by the jury, whom I basically have no respect for doing something like that. We need to hold these police accountable, because we got police officers committing evils out there, and nobody's condemning it. Used to the churches in America, we would stand against this kind of stuff, because a lot of preachers, they used to believe, like Dr. John Rice, his quote I wrote down here, that as Christians and as Christians and as ministers and preachers, that we have a duty and an obligation to stand up for what's right. Then the Bible teaches us to do justice one with each other. Don't do false measures. Don't bear a false witness. Don't follow a crowd to do evil. You got to stand for the right. And the churches aren't doing that anymore, and so we're sliding more and more into tyranny in this country. I can give you numerous examples where we have our media and our government lying to us on a daily basis, but nobody speaks out against it. So that's why I'm glad that this Wolfgang Halbig, he's actually asking real questions, and he says he plans on, I guess, filing a lawsuit against officials in Connecticut and everything like that, because he wants them to testify. What do you call that? When you do a discovery, or you do where you interview the person with the attorney and they record it, a deposition. He wants to do depositions on them. I support him 150%. And I think more Christians and more pastors need to speak out on these kind of issues. I mean, there's a lot of inconsistencies in the Sandy Hook thing. I'm really disturbed by it because, and check this out. Alex Jones, Infowars.com, was on the radio before Sandy Hook even happened, right after Obama got reelected, and he had inside sources in the government that were telling him that President Obama was planning on the first thing he was going to do, then after he was reelected, was to go after the guns. And then conveniently, the Sandy Hook thing happens, and it just gives him this convenient pretext, right when he needs it, right at the right time when he needs it to carry out his agenda. So, I mean, there's all kind of weird things happening here with Sandy Hook, where you got police and local officials not following proper protocols, state officials not following proper protocols, just weird things going on. Now all of a sudden, you got Mr. Vance, the head law enforcement official over it, issuing statements that anybody asks any questions about Sandy Hook, he's going to have them arrested. There was one activist already who actually has been arrested for asking questions. It just seems to me, if it was an open shut case where we had just the one shooter and he was just a nut or whatever it was, and that there wouldn't need to be this need to classify everything and to make it top secret and to lock things down and threaten to arrest people for trying to get information. I mean, it just seems like they're going through this unbelievable amount of cover-up and obfuscation here on this issue. And here at the Remnant New Testament Church Ministries, we believe that the government should be honest. There should be integrity in government. They should be honest and open with the people. That we, the people, do have a right to know what's going on, so we can hold our elected officials accountable. And that's the main thing. As Christians, we believe in being active civilly, and we believe in taking a stand in doing that for morality, for truth, for righteousness, for justice. And that's not being served in this country anymore. We've got to start speaking out and standing up. And I really don't feel like justice has been done to the Sandy Hook thing. We need an open investigation of the facts. And I believe we need an open investigation of other incidents that have occurred, like September the 11th. There was the Boston Marathon bombing, other incidents where the official story is not adding up, it doesn't make any logical sense. And I like the way Sherlock Holmes says it best in the Sherlock Holmes novels. Once you've eliminated all other possibilities, whatever left, however improbable, is the solution. That's going to be your best bet. So, I think that's what Mr. Wolfgang is doing here. Mr. Wolfgang Halbig is what he's doing. I think he's thinking like an investigator like that, and you can see he's being very thorough, asking these really good questions, and not getting any answers. And they're not responding to this. Officials in the state of Connecticut are not responding to Freedom of Information Act requests, which by law they must give a response to. Just something's not right. We should stop believing what we see on the idiot box, as I like to call it, or you might know it as a television set, and start thinking for ourselves, being critical in our thinking, and asking real questions, and not just blindly accepting it because Fox said it, or CNN said it, or MSNBC said it, because they've been caught numerous times lying to the public, fabricating information. Let me give you a big example. NBC, right? They got that big Al Sharpton communist guy on there. But anyway, during the George Zimmerman case, we all know about George Zimmerman and Trayvon Martin, where George Zimmerman, he's neighborhood watch. He sees a suspicious person acting suspiciously, so he calls the police to report like he's supposed to do. And the 911 operator is asking him, okay, Mr. Zimmerman, what does he look like? Give me a description. And asking him a question, is this person white or black? And Zimmerman responds back to, I think he's black. So Zimmerman wasn't even sure he was black. He said, I think he's black. But NBC, they got caught doctoring the tape of the 911 call, where they take out the part where the operator's asking the questions that makes George Zimmerman saying, yeah, there's a suspicious guy out here, and he's black. You know, doctoring a tape to make him look racial. That is called lying. That is distortion, and it's called putting out a lie. So NBC caught lying to the public. And so I don't trust our media. I don't believe everything I see on there, and we better stop listening to the idiot box and start thinking for ourselves here, asking critical questions, and trying to be aware of what's going on. That's the key. But anyway, I just want to do this video to get these things off my chest. And as a Christian, I really do believe in integrity and honor, and having justice in our government, and being able to trust our officials, our leaders, to tell us the truth, to have honor, to have integrity, to carry out real justice, and to expect our media people to have integrity to tell us the truth. But we can't do that anymore, because we, the American people, we stopped trying to hold them accountable. You know, we're in our own la-la fancy land. We only care about ourselves and everything like that. But while our country is being taken over and by a criminal element, we're losing our freedoms. Christians are now starting to be targeted by the federal government and other local and state governments. And I really do think as we have as a nation turned away from God and the Bible, that's where we start losing our freedom. You can see the fingerprints of Jesus on the doorknob to American on the doorknob. On the door of American freedom. And you can see it's the Lord just closing that door. The further and further we go away from God, the more that door closes. And I really believe we're a nation under judgment. All kind of chaos going on. It's just like the Bible says in the book of Deuteronomy, what would happen to the nation that turned from God. We're seeing that same thing happen here in America, where our cities are under a curse. God's judging everything. That's why we've been having this weird winter-like weather blizzards and everything else going on. And I just thank God, hey, He's respecting our choice, and it's going to lead to destruction. Anyway, we'd just like to, thanks for watching this vlog. Anyway, thank you, and God bless you.